Brown was out of his car meeting with community leaders when he says a group of very young thieves jumped in his car and took off.
Fox Eye's Patty Pan spoke to the councilman. She joins us now live tonight with more. Patty, what'd he tell you?
Yeah, you know, the councilman tells us that police actually have found his car, but really we don't have any other details than that. Now, the councilman also said he never saw it coming. He tells us he was literally 3 or 4 feet away from his car when he believes what appeared to be 4 young children. He says no more than 11 or 12 years old got into his car. But really what's most shocking is he believes that one of the children was no more than 6 or 7 years old. And at the time he saw them, he says they were holding a toy.
There was no care for loss of life and for themselves or myself.
Well, it seems like City Councilman Antonio Brown is getting his comeuppance, man. Because he has a history of stealing too. Atlanta City Councilman Antonio Brown has been indicted for attempting to defraud several financial institutions. This is from July 29th, 2020. Atlanta City Councilman Antonio Brown has been indicted on multiple fraud charges in connection with Brown's attempts to defraud several financial institutions by taking out loans and making credit card purchases and then falsely claiming that he was the victim of identity theft and was not responsible for the charges or repaying the loans. For years, Antonio Brown allegedly sought to defraud a number of banks and credit card companies by falsely claiming that he was the victim of identity theft, said U.S. Attorney Byung J. Pak. Brown's scheme was eventually brought to light, resulting in his indictment by the grand jury. This investigation is another example of the power of partnerships in combating financial fraud and identity theft, said Tommy D. Koch, postal inspector in charge of the Atlanta division. Postal inspectors are dedicated to pursuing individuals who seek to defraud for their own financial gain. We are committed to working with our federal law enforcement partners to aggressively pursue those who falsely claim their identity was stolen in an attempt to defraud financial institutions, said Gail S. Enos, Inspector General of Social Security. Damn, he had all the agencies on his behind. Damn. She said, I thank the U.S. Postal Inspection Service and IRS Criminal Investigation for their efforts in the case, and the U.S. Attorney's Office for bringing these charges. So I guess I know they're going to try to say they're only attacking him because he's a black man and they try and take a black man down. It is activism because, you know, you're activists too. It's activism that's caused the U.S. government to come after him. But it seems like they got a lot of evidence against him. According to the U.S. Attorney Pak, the charges and other information presented in court beginning in 2012, Brown opened a number of credit cards, which he then used to make thousands of dollars worth of purchases for his own personal benefit. Brown also obtained over $60,000 in automobile loans to finance the purchase of a Mercedes C300 and a Range Rover. How many of y'all feel sorry for this dude, man? He got his car jacked by some 6-year-olds. Listen, man, I'm not a big fan of crime, but this guy's a criminal, man. Like, this is big time fraud, man. This ain't small time. This ain't, claiming somebody's kids on your taxes, man. This ain't, buying a washer and dryer set and then calling the company and telling them your credit card got stolen. This is My man was balling. Despite opening and using these credit cards, and despite taking the money for the 2 automobile loans, Brown allegedly falsely claimed that his identity had been stolen and that someone else had made the credit card purchases or had taken out these loans. The indictment further alleges that Brown provided false information to Signature Bank when applying for a $75,000 loan in August of 2017. During the loan application process, Brown provided a personal financial statement falsely claiming that he earned $325,000 a year and had $200,000 in available cash or assets. Brown allegedly knew this information was false because he had recently submitted other loan applications reporting far less income and available cash or assets. For instance, man, look, it just goes on and on. He just living a life of fraud, man. Wow. And it goes on and on and on. So let's watch this with this in mind. A criminal activist. Remember, this guy's a criminal. And he blackity black, the black man, black people is critical race theory. You dig? That's basically critical race theory criminal.
Brown was out of his car meeting with community leaders when he says a group of very young thieves jumped in his car and took off.
Fox 5's Patty Pan spoke to the councilman. She joins us now live tonight with more. Patty, what did he tell you?
Yeah, you know, the councilman tells us that police actually have found his car, but really we don't have any other details than that. Now, the councilman also said he never saw it coming. He tells us he was literally 3 or 4 feet away from his car when he believes what appeared to be 4 young children, he says no more than 11 or 12 years old, got into his car. But really what's most shocking is he believes that one of the children was no more than 6 or 7 years old, and at the time he saw them, he says they were holding a toy.
There was no care for loss of life and for themselves or myself.
Atlanta councilman and mayoral candidate Antonio Brown says what happened to him in his district in the Dixie Hills community in Northwest Atlanta is a perfect example of what is happening to our youth and why we as a society need to step up and help.
All this smiling up in cops' faces now. I hate these politicians, man. These collectivists. He all smiling up in the cop face. Any other time, he with a group of black people that desperately need police and white liberals who in Atlanta, Buckhead, definitely need police, chanting anti-police slogans and gallivanting around with signs talking cash SHIT to police officers.
Atlanta councilman and mayoral candidate Antonio Brown says what happened to him in his district in the Dixie Hills community in Northwest Atlanta is a perfect example of what is happening to our youth and why we as a society need to step up and help. Councilman Brown tells Fox 5 4 young children stole his white Mercedes coupe just before noon Wednesday, and at the time he was standing just a few feet away speaking with community leader Ben Norman.
One kid was in the driver's seat. Ben attempted to open the door to get him out of the car. He fought with Ben. I then engaged and tried to get him out of the car. The 3 other kids were trying to figure out to get in the car or stay out of the car. He started to hit on the gas. Ben let go, and then the kid started to drag me in the car a half of a block.
Between 6 and 11, man. Now listen, this brother's a criminal himself. And he's a scumbag. However, this stuff, listen, when I see groups of kids, I look at them as threats. I don't look at them as, oh, look at the little. No, you can't do that no more. I used to be able to do that. But since y'all started teaching critical race theory in kindergarten, I can't do that no more. Because now these kids are entitled and emboldened and they're angry because slavery, man. Y'all had us as slaves, man. And my hood rat mama ain't got nothing. And my daddy, my thugged out daddy, is in jail because of y'all in slavery in the past and everything. And you can't do nothing to me when you catch me. All the way up until I'm like 18. So, it's so many things working. The juvenile justice system, just the inherent, like, flaws in that system. Then the critical race theory being taught in kindergarten. They turn on ESPN and they're talking about George Floyd half the damn time. A year later. And then they go home to dangerous environments where people are being killed all the time, including their classmates. And everybody's done a carjacking. This is the thing you got to understand, y'all. Like, when I was coming up, remember I told you about, like, when I was 15, 16, 17, all that, the majors? We used to do, little stick-ups on the street and whatnot, and we'd find somebody, find a soft target and stick them up. Take their money and run off laughing. Everybody had done that. Like, it wasn't no kids that because full disclosure, I had started hanging around my cousin's neighborhood, the one who I did the video who ended up, doing all the time for that. And around there, that was kind of like the projects, you know what I'm saying? This is a notorious hood. And all the kids around there was bad. Like, all of them. Everybody had done stuff. So you wanted to do stuff to fit in. And then my parents ended up sending me away to school. And then when I'd come home, I'd be riding around in stolen cars. And you'd be doing all types of crime. Then I'd go back to school. I remember the first time the police brought me home. I can't remember. I think I was like 14. And my mother was so disappointed, man. So disappointed. You want us to take him, or you want to keep him? Like I keep him. I wish they would have took me. And back in them days, you ain't had cell phones, man. I was basically in a room with 4 walls. She took all my stuff, my video games, my TV. I was just living in a room with 4 walls. And it takes a lot to turn these kids around. And even then, it don't work. Because even after all of that, everything my mother tried, I still, as an adult, which would be over 18, continued, to, be wayward and on the other side of the law. Didn't even have to go on to college. Still in college in Richmond, hanging out with drug dealers and hanging out at the trap. smoking all day, and hanging out with the baddest people I could find. So, I mean, listen, man. The reason I'm saying all this is because it's just... Those kids at 6 and 11 that did this to this guy, those kids are... They're on the wrong path. Early, Jack. 6 and 11. Woo. It's going to be hard to turn them around, man. If they even want to be turned around. It's going to be hard, Jack.
To him in his district in the Dixie Hills community in Northwest Atlanta is a perfect example of what is happening to our youth and why we as a society need to step up and help. Councilman Brown tells Fox 5 4 young children stole his white Mercedes coupe just before noon Wednesday, and at the time he was standing just a few feet away speaking with community leader Ben Norman.
One kid was in the driver's seat. Ben attempted to open the door to get him out of the car. He fought with Ben. I then engaged and tried to get him out of the car. The 3 other kids were trying to figure out to get in the car or stay out of the car. He started to hit on the gas. Ben let go, and then the kid started to drag me in the car a half of a block.
Officers were called to Verbena Street in Northwest Atlanta. According to Councilman Brown, he turned off his car, which has a keyless start, got out of the car, and was standing nearby when he says he noticed 4 young children, no more than 11 or 12 years old, the youngest possibly 6 or 7, walking around a nearby store, and within seconds, they were in his car.
One of them jumped in on the passenger side, hopped over real quick, and started the car up. It's one of those keyless cars where you just push the button, and quickly, we try to go there, and we're going to maybe try to get the kid out of the car or something, but like, what do you do to a kid, right? Right. It's like...
The fact that they jumped in the passenger seat lets me know that they've done this before. That's called sliding. It's common what they do it's very common in Atlanta, especially at gas stations. You get out to pump your gas, and somebody usually pulls up in another car, and then somebody hops out of that car and they jump in your passenger seat and scoot over to your driver's seat and start your car. And the fact that these 6 and 7-year-olds knew just push to start a car, that means they've done this before. Like this, obviously. I mean, I know you obviously knew that. Most of y'all knew that with common sense, but they done this a lot of times before. This ain't their first rodeo. They made a split-second decision. They saw the guy and instantly made the decision. Like, it wasn't like his car was sitting there for an hour and they were hemming and hawing and, gathering up the courage and, you scared, you bet you won't do it. No, it was instant. Boom. He got out of his car and was like, oh, shit. Boom. And they jumped in and boom, and they was gone. And they was dragging them down the street. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, these kids are, they've done this plenty of times.
When he says he noticed 4 young children, no more than 11 or 12 years old, the youngest possibly 6 or 7, walking around a nearby store, and within seconds, they were in his car.
One of them jumped in on the passenger side, hopped over real quick, and started the car up. It's one of those keyless cars where you just push the button, and, quickly, we try to go there, and we're going to maybe try to get the kid out of the car or something, but like, what do you do to a kid, right? Right. It's like... so he'd already started figuring out. I mean, they had plans. They knew what they were going to do. Just hit the gas, and he peeled out, and took off.
Generational poverty has gone on long enough. It's time that we start addressing the root of this problem, because there's no amount of officers you're going to put on the streets in Atlanta that could have stopped this from happening.
So he's already assessed the problem. He hasn't done a study. He hasn't done any kind of, data to let's look at other areas that are impoverished. Do we see this type of crime and violence, these violent crimes, carjackings and things like that in mass? Because they quick to say poverty. Black people give poor people a bad name. There's so many poor people that are not running around carjacking, killing each other and robbing each other. Poor people are not more violent. Look at him. He's a politician. He was stealing money. He's a perfect example. His life of crime. Middle class upbringing, growing up, a life of crime. Me too. Like, I didn't grow up in the fucking projects. I mean, I grew up in an apartment complex, but it wasn't a project. The kids were, they were bad, but they weren't the worst kids in the city. School I went to, kids were bad, but they weren't the worst, wasn't the worst school in the city. But this guy, politician, all the theft and crime he's done, all the stealing he did just because it was white collar crime, it's the same thing. If he gets convicted, he's going to jail. Poverty does not make criminals, man. There's other factors at play. And yes, police will stop this. If them kids see police rolling down the street frequently, they're going to know that, police do stop this stuff as a deterrent. As a guy who used to be a thief and used to just steal for fun, not like because I needed it. We were just thieves. We just stole because that's what we wanted to do. And some of the stuff we needed. I mean, I'm not going to act like I was, some of the stuff I needed. But 80% of the stuff was just wants. Let me tell you something, man. People steal because they want to. People do crime. It's not. Listen, poverty does not make criminals, man. It was plenty of kids in the different neighborhoods that I been in, and different kids I knew that didn't steal. That didn't do none of this stuff. They were cornballs and squares and they didn't fit in. Because the cool thing to do was to steal. A lot of that stuff is culture, man. A lot of that stuff is culture. It's not poverty. But also it is the criminal justice system. If you know you're going to get, like, if these kids know that nothing's going to happen to them for this. That has something to do with it too. So it's a lot of factors other than poverty, my nigga.
Generational poverty has gone on long enough. It's time that we start addressing the root of this problem, because there's no amount of officers you're going to put on the streets in Atlanta that could have stopped this from happening.
Now, again, Atlanta police still investigating this case. No word yet, if anyone has been arrested. But coming up at 6, find out what Councilman Brown wants to happen or not happen to these kids if and when they're caught. For now, that is the latest outside Atlanta Police Headquarters. I'm Patty Pan, Fox 5 News.
Wow. All right, Patty, thanks.
Let's look at some of this clown's posts. He writes, families, activists, and supporters came together for My Daddy Changed the World rally in Atlanta on the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd's death. The My Daddy Changed the World rally? On the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd's death, as we continue to fight for accountability and justice. You got quick justice. They caught the kids that stole your car. Now we need justice for all the money you stole. Goddamn crook. Another successful cleanup in English Avenue today with our amazing volunteers. Thank you, my fellow man Atlanta and the People's Uprising, the English Avenue Association, Mother Moore, and volunteers from the Dome for showing up and showing out. So here he talks about diversions, policing alternatives, and diversions. Call 311. Did you call 311 when them little kids stole your car? No, you called 911. Stop telling people this stupid crap. Arresting and jailing people who are causing disturbances or harm as a result of substance use, mental health challenges, or survival activities doesn't serve our communities. Listen, you ever been around somebody off PCP? Here in Washington, D.C., they got something they called the dipper. They used to smoke just PCP on mint leaves. Now they started smoking it, taking a cigarette, dipping it in embalming fluid, and smoking it. You ever seen a dude off of that? The police can't even handle him. Arresting and jailing people who are causing disturbances or harm as a result of substance use, mental health challenges, or survival activities doesn't serve our communities. Instead, it pushes people even further to the margins, away from the connections and resources that support recovery and wellness. This dude crazy, man. All right, let's look at his district at a glance, man. This district that this guy represents. It's 57% male and 43% female. Wow. 8% of the city's total population lives there, which is 40,968. 78% of the people are renters and 22% are owners. That's not good. That means that the people don't own the stuff, so they don't have ownership in the place, so they're liable not to treat it that well. This is another thing that you want to look at. Educational attainment. So 10% have no diploma. 18% have high school diploma. 3% have GED. So you got 23% have a college degree. I mean, that's not bad. I ain't gonna say that that's bad. That's not bad. I mean, for the type of district this probably is. Median household income, $35,000. Race and ethnicity. So you have 58% black. So this district is 60% black. Yowzers. 14% Asian, 24% white. Wow. 4%, like 3% Latino. Wow. In a pretty black district, man.
Today, one of Atlanta's council members became a victim of the city's surging crime problem. He was nearly dragged down the street by young thieves. They were driving away with his car. It happened along Verbena Street near Hamilton E. Holmes and I-20 in Northwest Atlanta. Channel 2's Tom Regan is live there. And Tom, the councilman says he was there to talk about neighborhood redevelopment.
Right, Leonard. The councilman told me that he was parked actually right here in front of this building, about to meet up with a neighborhood association person and a developer. Moments later, he watched in shock as 4 kids jumped into his car and took off.
That looked like a rough place, man. I mean, that just looked like a rough place. And his district's pretty rough, man. I mean, it's not the roughest in all of Atlanta, but it's rough, man. They got their spots, man. And then since 2020, it's just been very, very dangerous. If you guys been following the channel, you know, weeks ago I said I hope this starts happening to these activists and these politicians, and he's a politician and an activist. And have you guys noticed that it's starting to happen? We had a few weeks ago, we had the reporter down there in Miami. She got pimp slapped by some peaceful protesters. Now this guy gets his carjacked by some future joggers. But that looked like a rough spot. Like he thought that he could pull his car up right there, leave the doors unlocked, and just because I'm this guy, no one is safe.
Leonard, the councilman told me that he was parked actually right here in front of this building, about to meet up with a neighborhood association person and a developer. Moments later, he watched in shock as 4 kids jumped into his car and took off.
We were engaged in conversation. We looked up, and one kid was in the driver's seat.
When Councilman Antonio Brown climbed out of his car to greet someone less than 10 feet away, he didn't think much of a group of kids walking by.
Somewhere between 7 and 11 years old. So you don't immediately think, oh, these kids are getting ready to steal my car.
What a luxury that is, Antonio. What a luxury that is. Because it's a lot of people that do think that. And you call them racist if they're white. If they're Asian, you'll call them a racist. You'll say they're biased, they're bigoted. But there's a lot of people who do think like that. Rightfully so. And because of people like you, they squelch those spidey senses and tingly senses that are going off in their back of their head. And they say, no, it's my unconscious bias. It's my unconscious bias. It's my unconscious bias. They end up getting jacked. Because people like you tell them that it's not observations over years that they've made. It's not just them looking around and seeing what's happening in their society. It's not them making a educated decision. It's their unconscious bias causing them to see these little kids as potential threats. Even locking their door, like y'all make. He's the type of guy that will make a white person feel bad about blooping their car. Like bloop. Like they see some black kids and they bloop their car. He would be, if he saw that, he'd be like, all right, he blooped his car. He didn't have to. He saw those black kids there and he blooped his car. Racist? Like.
Somewhere between 7 and 11 years old. So you don't immediately think, oh, these kids are getting ready to steal my car.
But that's exactly what they did in a matter of seconds, jumping into his unlocked Mercedes-Benz and hitting the push-button start.
He started to hit on the gas, Ben let go, and then the kid started to drag me in the car a half of a block. He started to speed up, and I knew that if I had not let go, I could have probably killed myself because he was going so fast.
Neighborhood association member Ben Norman told me he struck the pavement trying to stop the car.
So I got some scratches and stuff. Because they took off out of the car and I kind of fell down on the ground for a minute.
The councilman says he called 911 and waited for 5 minutes to speak to a dispatcher. He said it took 45 minutes for police to arrive because his call was marked low priority in error.
Wow. I don't feel sorry for you. 5 minutes to get through to a dispatcher and 45 minutes for someone to arrive on the scene. LOL. LOL. That's hysterical, man. Wow. Literally, chickens coming home to roost. Literally, you get what you asked for. Literally. Stupid. Literally. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Five minutes on the phone waiting for a dispatcher. Then 45 minutes. So 50 minutes before a cop shows up. He would not have known what his citizens go through in his district and in his city had this not happened to him. Because they don't understand what defund the police means. And they've really, they literally defunded them in Atlanta. It's not just a theory. They don't understand what defund the police means. They don't understand what the blue flu. When cops are even the cops who still have jobs, the units that are still available are like, damn, I can't. If I show up on the scene and some nigga acting crazy and threatening me and threatening other people, and I do what a police supposed to do, I may be on death row. I mean, if the guy kicks me and my partner's ass and takes the taser and shoots us with it, we really can't respond to that. You have to think about that. The cops in Atlanta know that if they're arresting me and I kick both of their asses, take their taser and shoot them with it, and I'm not talking about while we're struggling over the taser goes off. I'm talking about I take it from them and shoot them with it. That if they respond with the next level of force, they're on death row, facing capital murder charges. And the mayor will be giving a press conference excoriating the entire force. So yes, there's less units, less officers. They have a manpower shortage there. But they also, the ones that are there, yikes.
He started to hit on the gas, Ben let go, and then the kid started to drag me in the car a half of a block. He started to speed up, and I knew that if I had not let go, I could have probably killed myself because he was going so fast.
Neighborhood Association member Ben Norman told me he struck the pavement trying to stop the car.
So I got some scratches and stuff. Because they took off out of the car, and I kind of fell down on the ground for a minute.
The councilman says he called 911 and waited for 5 minutes to speak to a dispatcher. He said it took 45 minutes for police to arrive because his call was marked low priority in error. Remarkably, he told me he won't file charges against the youngsters who stole his car. He believes they acted out of hopelessness, lack of support, and opportunity.
I don't know if someone else put them up to doing it. I don't know what the circumstance was, but it was just unfortunate to see kids that young engaging in criminal behavior.
Cut the conspiracy crap, Negro. Cut that out, man. Cut that crap out. Nobody put them up into it. They caught you slipping. If someone put them up to it, and you know what that means. It's because of my activism as a politician and the value and my support of, somebody's trying to attack me. Shut the fuck up.
To see kids that young engaging in criminal behavior.
Brown, who's running for mayor, says some systematic changes must be made for Atlanta to curb its rising crime rate. Police are still looking for his car and the kids who stole it. Live in Northwest Atlanta, Tom Regan, Channel 2 Action News.